Hi, everyone. I am Rachelle Dené Poth, and I am a Spanish and STEAM educator. I have been teaching a course to eighth graders called STEAM, What's Next in Emerging Technology, for about the last 6 years. And during this course, throughout the year, we cover a lot of different topics, especially because it's focused on emerging technologies. And one of the areas that I love to work with my students and learn about is on artificial intelligence, looking at what are the predictions for the future. And then we explore a lot of different resources. We have some great discussions, and I learn a ton from my students. And so when I find some resources that really make a difference, that my students become more curious, they're creative, but also in the process, they're learning about something that is impacting us now and will continue to in the future. But they're also building essential social emotional learning skills, especially when it comes to working through problems and dealing with challenges and developing their own awareness of what their interests are and seeing their growth over time. And so I love, like I said, teaching about AI. And when I find resources, I enjoy sharing them with other educators who may be looking to get started with teaching about AI in the classroom and may not be sure exactly where to start. So for this, I would love to share with you what we've been doing using AutoAuto. And for anybody who's not familiar, I highly recommend that you go to the site right now and just start to check it out. That's one of the first things that I did was I dove into looking at the resources that were available, what grade levels was it appropriate for, and of course for teachers, what are some of the resources available. And for myself, like I said, I'm a Spanish teacher, and for years I thought, well, I'm just a Spanish teacher. I can't use some of these different technologies in my classroom, or I don't know where to begin. We have a lot to choose from. And the nice thing about these tools, like AutoAuto in this case, is that it offers everything that you need to get started and to feel confident bringing this into your classroom with your students. But I can tell you, you don't have to be an expert because the students will take it and run with it. They will, of course, like we do when we work through it, come up against some challenges and have some areas where they might not be able to figure the answer out right away. But that's okay, because then we learn to appreciate the process of learning itself and deal with that productive struggle. And so whenever it comes to finding resources, like using AutoAuto in this case, it gives students a chance to explore on their own, to work at their own pace, to have some support available because of the different materials that are available within the platform itself, like the videos that help you. There's some text. And then, of course, us as the teachers can work with the students as well. But for educators who are looking, it's easy to get students enrolled into your classroom and to be able to see what they're working on, what their progress is like, and to have all of that available within your dashboard. So really quickly, just scrolling through the site, if you're interested to know how much time is involved in this, what are the skills that students will develop? What are the types of things that students will do with this platform? Well, they're going to work through some different projects. They will have some different tasks to go through, and some things will be auto-graded. There are also opportunities for you, the teacher, to review what they've submitted as their answers and to provide some feedback to them, which of course we know is essential for their learning. And then there are a lot of resources available for teachers in terms of PD to get you started. They are tied into the curriculum. And so it really is like everything that you need within one. My students were able to get into our classroom right away. They just went onto the website. You didn't have to install anything. There's content that's embedded right within it. They get to choose the color of their car, and they really are engaged in the learning process. And so the way that it works, you have the virtual courses, which is what my students are using. You can also get the actual cars and use both the virtual and the physical cars to learn. And then they have videos that you can check out. So I recommend that even with students, whenever you get started, that you dive in by talking about, of course, what is artificial intelligence? Where do we see it in our everyday lives? What do you think is going to happen when it comes to AI in the future? And then just see what the students come up with. And that's where you'll see a lot of that curiosity, their creativity, challenges they'll present, and then concerns, of course, as part of it. But when they get to start with AutoAuto and they have their virtual car and they can work through at their own pace with us facilitating, of course, and not feeling like we have to be the expert, it does make a big difference. And so one of the things that I really like about this is, again, that as students complete it, and I'll show you this here shortly, you can see what their progress is like. Of course, it frees us up where we can walk around and we can interact with our students. They can ask us questions. But what I've noticed is that they've started to really rely on each other during the process. And so let me take a moment here and I'll show you what it actually looks like once you've gotten your students enrolled into the course and what you will see on your teacher dashboard. Okay, so one of the things I did want to point out is the navigation in this is really easy. So whenever you come to AutoAuto, you can go quickly back home. You can see the courses that they have available, the resources available for teachers. They do offer teacher onboard training that takes you through the series of activities to help you to feel more confident. And it's definitely something I recommend. If this is the first time you're bringing something like this into the classroom, it makes it easy to get started. And that's something that I did as well. You can check out the events. And if you have any questions, where to get these activities for your students. But let me show you the courses first. So they have a variety. And what I like about this is it tells you the grade level options. And so again, AI is not something that is specific to teaching in a technology course or STEM or STEAM course. It's something that from elementary school all the way up, even at pre-K, these students learn so quickly, but it has the different grade level options that you can choose. And whenever we are doing things like project-based learning, the types of lessons that they have within this align to that. And so if you've been thinking about a couple of things, let's say you want to bring PBL into your classroom and you want to look at emerging technologies like AI and help students to develop these skills, this is a perfect way to do it. It tells you how many class hours it has included in the course and whether or not it's hands-on or virtual. So like I said, my students are using the virtual cars and really enjoying it. And of course, there are struggles that come with it. Even for myself, I tell them sometimes I do not know the answer, but that's okay because that collaboration that happens in the classroom, the students are more engaged in it, especially whenever they can help one another and work through those challenges, makes a big difference. I do love, like I said, the teacher dashboard because you have the auto grading. So it saves time, and that time that it saves gives us more time to go and work with our students. So if I go to labs, you'll see that there are the different units of study that students can work through. We have the programming and AI, computer vision, object detection, natural language processing, the data science, and then of course, computer science and machine learning. And right now, because my students had worked on this, I can see how many answers need to be graded. And that takes me right to the dashboard where I will see a bell that shows whether or not I need to grade something, or if it has a check, it means it's already been graded. Now, in the interest of saving the names, I will not go to that point, but I will show you what one of these units looks like in the progression of it. So with each unit, for teachers diving into this, it tells you the different units that are made up in this course, and it gives you the objectives. So when we're thinking about the why behind using some of these different tools, what are the goals, and being sure that we share that with the students too, this tells you, okay, they're going to learn how to program the car to drive. They'll learn about machine learning and also artificial intelligence and those concepts and how that is helping and created by humans, right? They also learn how to do some math functions and things when they're writing the lines of code. They can figure out how to move the car so it drives up and sits on top of a table, or how to fix the code if it didn't do exactly what they thought that it was going to do. They can look at even careers that they might need these skills in the future. But it's pretty neat that they can have that computer, everything available on it with the cars, and for students to be able to, like I said, work together when they have some questions. But it takes everybody through a nice kind of progression between, like, here are the cars, here's machine learning, here's Python coding, and then moves into another aspect of it. You have some challenges in there. There are different activities students can do, and it breaks it down and it gives them that reinforcement and the support along the way. And of course, some of the questions are auto-graded, but then for us, there are some that we need to give feedback to. What's nice is that it has a drop-down box that you can choose some of the already made feedback, but you can also personalize it and make it more authentic and meaningful for your students because you can enter your own comments. And so this is just one example for Chapter 1, Programming and Artificial Intelligence. And if you go back and let's say say you want students to just explore. And if you don't have a ton of time, maybe they pick an area that they're interested in. Or if you don't have a lot of devices, maybe they work together with a partner. Nothing wrong with that. I've had my students doing that as well. Another favorite of my students is the computer vision and trying to figure out like, well, how does this happen? How does car figure out like what is in front of it or make the decisions when driving if there is something that's blocking its path and it has passengers? So these are great things for students to kind of explore and investigate on their own, but for us as teachers to be able to be part of that conversation and help students kind of along the way, learning from them and with them, of course, because we want to be co-learners with our students. We don't need to be the experts in the front of the room, the facilitators, get them started and then see where they take it. And for a lot of students, at first, it might be challenging to think, well, I don't know how to code, or I'm not going to be very good at this. But the way that this is set up, it helps students to build their skills in a natural progression and provides the support that they need so they can move on to the next steps, or they can rely on each other. Or of course, we're there to support them along the way. So what I think is great about this is you have these different topics, and from these topics, when students work within the platform and they use the cars and they're writing the codes, you can take a pause and have a conversation and ask students, what questions do you have? What are some of the concerns that people might have about this? What are the benefits, for example? And I really like that, again, for teachers who are looking for something to get started and don't want to have to pull from a lot of different sites or may not have a ton of time to get started with it, this has everything that you need right within it, especially starting with the objectives and aligning with the curriculum. And so if, for example, I'm teaching my students about neural networks and algorithms, and I say in a conversation, well, what's an algorithm? Then that could be a talking point to then lead them into this section where when they open it, they'll see what happens first. They have a video that will explain to them what is an algorithm. And then if they want the text, this is the text that would be in the video. So if students want that kind of reinforcement, like, okay, I get this, but I'd like to see this in writing, you have the text that's available for the video. Then as students work through, there are some questions, and they may be one answer. It might be a select all that apply. And you have the check my answer, which kind of skip through that one. And then there are some that's a challenge. And so it says, use one of the algorithms from the multiple choice above and answer two things. And so the students would type in, and then they would submit for grading. So I'm just going to type in answer and hit submit. So then the teacher, me, would be alerted that I have an answer to check and grade it. So on that main dashboard, it would show that a certain number of answers need to be graded. And if students decided they wanted to change their answer, not a problem. They can cancel their submission, or if they're good with it, then it says you're ready to move on, and they just hit next. So then it takes them to the next component. And of course, there's a video that guides them through it. And if they want that reinforcement with the text, that's great. They can check out the text and use that to go back to it. And I do have students, including myself, as a student of this, where I've had to go back and think, because you're taking in so much information and sometimes it can feel overwhelming, but the way that this is set up really does add small chunks of it so that you learn step by step and build those pieces. And that's one of the things that I really like about using this, is that it gives students that chance to develop student agency, that they become more independent in their learning, and that also they have that support that they need, whether it's in the form of a video that they can go back to, or it's the text, or it's some hints, or of course, their classmates as well. So whenever students work through this, you can see as the teacher, or as the teacher in this case, how many things you have to grade. But if you yourself as the teacher are going through it, you're going to see how many points that you have. And I have created different accounts and just to kind of go through the process with them each year. But for my class, being able to see the number of answers that need to be graded and the progress and track it, and to see and to be able to check in with the students really does make a difference. So if I go back to the main page, and for anybody who is thinking about getting started with AutoAuto, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me, because I'd be happy to help you with it and give you some, examples of ways that I brought this into my classroom, the number of days that we spent on it. But it is easy to navigate and to add students to your classes. You can join a classroom. So let's say you have some colleagues, you're going to work on this together, or you want to learn in somebody else's classroom that is using this. Very easy to do. It also keeps track of your own progress, so you can totally relate to that. But having students join is easy to do. And the other thing is students can be added, or there is a classroom code that you can use for that. So let me go ahead and show you one more thing before wrapping it up here today about AutoAuto. So you have a class, let's say you have multiple classes, easy enough to go to settings and to create a new classroom. So I'm just going to title this classroom 2. You can change the color. You can have the instructions for students. You can automatically assign students to the courses, whatever you want, and you hit create. So you have no courses assigned yet. So I want for my students to do this same course, the AI and the virtual autonomous cars. I'll add this course to the classroom. Takes matter of seconds, and there you have it already, but you don't have any students yet. So what you want to do is you want to add students. So when you click add students, you have options for enrolling existing accounts. So if students are already enrolled in another class or course that you have, you can create new accounts and add them, or you have a class code name. So what you do is you have students go to the website and they'll create their account. And then once they do that, it will ask them for a code name, which they'll type in classroom with the numbers, and they will be right into this same page that you're seeing. The other option is if you want to add students and create new accounts, you can use it to create student accounts in bulk and add them right into that, creating a name, a username, and an email. You can set some initial password that you want. And the other thing that's kind of neat too is you have some virtual worlds, and it tells a little bit about you, and then teacher onboard training that you can do. So if you are thinking about getting started with AI and wanting students to learn about coding and about these emerging technologies, I definitely recommend that you dive into AutoAuto and the programs that are available within their space, because they really offer a lot for students and of course for teachers to learn from as well. And don't worry about being the expert, because everything that you need to get started is available for you right within this one space, and your students will really enjoy all of the possibilities, and they'll be excited to learn about it and share exactly what they're learning with you and with their classmates.